Madam Deputy Speaker, it's fast and tax as fast as they can, and that's what's happening here. And we are watching the chaos of a Chancellor and a Deputy Prime Minister falling all over themselves to see who can put up the most taxes. We are watching a Prime Minister who has to undo the decisions of his own government in the space of months, but can't bring himself to apologize. The government is already showing that it has failed to learn the lessons of all socialist governments, that eventually they run out of everyone else's money. This one seems determined to do so in record time. And the only losers, Madam Deputy Speaker, will be the British people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. First of all, can I congratulate Tottenham Hotspur and Crystal Palace football clubs on both winning silverware for the first time in a long time. North and South London celebrate, well, both sides of Manchester commiserate, I'm afraid. But anyway, she asks me about something important. Can I just say that now that the injunction has been lifted, with the permission of Mr Speaker, we will do a statement, the Defence Secretary will do a statement later today, probably at the end of business, on the future of the Diego Garcia military base following those developments. And I know the whole House will want to send a very clear message, Madam Deputy Speaker, that we condemn the brutal murder of the Israeli embassy staff in Washington overnight. We stand firmly together against anti-Semitism. And today also marks the 8th anniversary of the Manchester Arena attack in my constituency. And I'm sure the thoughts of the whole House will be with the families of those affected. I also want to put on record my reflection of the determination of Figen Murray with her campaigning for Martin's Law. I'm really proud that it was this Labour government and our Prime Minister who kept that promise to Figen to introduce Martin's Law, which is now an Act of Parliament. Today also marks a year since the general election was called, Madam Deputy Speaker. In the rain, I think we all remember that. But let's be honest, the rain is still pouring on the Conservative Party. They don't seem to have learnt very much. They might have thought that from that day things couldn't get even worse, but they are doing, aren't they? But I do want to say to the Honourable Lady, I very much respect her and enjoy working with her on the Modernisation Committee and across the House, and I thank her for yet again stepping in at short notice to cover for the Shadow Leader, who I think is performing other parliamentary functions elsewhere. I'm sure we'll see him back soon. She asks me about grooming gangs, and I just want to be absolutely clear that this government, myself included, we want the victims and the survivors to be at the absolute heart of everything that we do, and that their terrible experiences are acted on and that those responsible are brought to justice. And that's exactly what we are doing, and we will leave no stone unturned in bringing about justice for the victims. And what they want first and foremost is for action to be taken for all of those recommendations, those many recommendations of the previous national inquiry to be implemented, and that's what we're doing. And also that Louise Casey's full audit of these matters will be brought to this House in very short order. She asks about a number of issues relating to the economy, but I do think, Madam Deputy Speaker, it's just worth us reminding ourselves what we inherited and what we have actually had to deal with since we came into office. We had to fix the gaping hole, and they don't want to talk about it, the gaping hole that their party left in the public finances. Pay deals on desks but unfunded. Billions of pounds on asylum hotels not accounted for. All the reserves gone in July of the financial year. New hospitals, nothing more than a work of fiction. And that's why we had to come in and fix the economy and get economic stability back into the economy. Because those who pay the heaviest price when the economy crashes and when markets lose confidence, are those on fixed incomes, like pensioners and the poorest in society. And it's also the value of people's pensions that fall as well. So we've acted on the £22 billion black hole, and we've got the economy going again. And they don't like to hear it, but that's exactly what we're doing. Growth is up. Interest rates have been cut 4 times since the general election. 500,000 more people have moved into work since the general election, and the UK is now the fastest growing European economy in the G7. And real wages have gone up for the first time in a decade after the party opposite left living standards fallen for the first time in our history over their parliament. So we are fixing the mess that they left behind. And she asks about winter fuel as well. And as the Prime Minister made clear yesterday, now that the economy is showing those signs of recovery because of the actions that we've taken, we want to look at that threshold, because first and foremost, we want to make sure that people feel the benefits of that economic growth and that they've got more money in their pockets, and that includes pensions as well. However, we won't be making spending commitments without saying where the money's coming from, and it's absolutely right that those decisions are made in a future fiscal event, as the Prime Minister said yesterday. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, a year on from that rainy day on Downing Street, it couldn't be clearer, could it really? Because the Conservative Party really are having an existential identity crisis. A year on from their worst defeat, they're still going backwards. They don't know who they are anymore. They don't know what they stand for anymore, and they just don't know what they're even doing. They once proudly stood for free trade, and now they're against any trade deals. They used to claim to be the party of business, but in opposing our agreement with the EU, they're setting themselves against the FSB, the CBI, the British Chamber of Commerce, Hospitality UK and the Food and Drink Association. They were once for levelling up and reindustrialisation of the North, but now they're against new energy infrastructure and the jobs of the future. And they were once compassionate Conservatives, I remember that very famously, supporting the NHS, but now they oppose the much-needed funding that it's getting. So, a year on, Madam Deputy Speaker, for that rainy day in Downing Street, they just haven't learnt a thing, and they haven't said sorry for the mess they've left behind, whether it's on the economy or whether it's on prisons, that we just heard earlier from a statement. It's down to this Labour government to clear up the mess that they left, to fix the economy, to fix public services, boost people's living standards, cut immigration and get the waiting list down.
John Trickett.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Can I associate myself first with the comments repudiating anti-Semitism from my honourable right friend, the leader. In South Emsall, in my constituency, there is a clay pit where they've been working for 14 years, 4 years after the licence expired. Last year, an notice was taken out by the Environment Agency, and now we hear there are multiple breaches of the licence, but nothing has yet been done to close that operation down. So can we have a debate in government time on the enforcement powers of the Environment Agency in order that I can express my wish that immediate action is now taking place to protect that community?
Well, I'm really sorry to hear about the situation he describes in his constituency, where he does great work on behalf of his constituents, and that enforcement action isn't being taken where it should be. I will ensure that the Minister has heard his question today and that the Environment Agency take the action that they should be doing.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Marie Goldman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, it was revealed by the charities Tommy's and Sands that, tragically, delays in improving NHS maternity care are costing the lives of hundreds of babies a year. It follows the Care Quality Commission's findings that 65% of maternity units are not sufficiently safe, putting women and babies under threat. So will the leader grant government time to debate the crisis unfolding in our maternity units, the failure to implement the immediate and essential actions in the Ockenden review, and the government's decision to end the ring-fencing of £100 million for vital improvements to maternity care?
Well, can I thank her for that question? And as a mother myself, and I'm sure many others across this House, we all pay tribute to the amazing work that midwives and our maternity services do. I'm sure we can all remember every midwife that we have dealt with through our own births and other people's. She's absolutely right that after the parlour state that our maternity services were left in by the previous government, we do need to learn the lessons, and we need to make sure that our maternity services are fit for purpose, that they have the funding that they need, and that we take on board all of the experiences of those that have used the services and of the many inquiries, including the Ockenden inquiry. That's what the Secretary of State is doing. He will come to this House after he's considered all of those findings and all of those conversations to make an update. But can I assure her that the funding levels for maternity services have not gone down at all since the election, even though she describes the ring fence.
Caroline Harris.
Madam Deputy Speaker. Over the last few days, the Welsh Rugby Union has announced plans to introduce a disproportionate funding formula that will disadvantage both the Ospreys and the Scarlets Rugby Union teams. Will the Leader of the House ask colleagues at the Department of Culture, Media and Sport to add their voices to a group of cross-party Welsh MPs who are asking the WRU to find a way to protect and equally support all four equally important regional Welsh rugby teams?
Well, she's a great champion for Welsh rugby and raises these issues with me regularly in these sessions. And I'm really sorry to hear about the new funding arrangements. I'm sure that Welsh Rugby have heard her question today and will respond and take action. And I will ensure a minister gets in touch with her as well.
On behalf of the Backbench Committee, Martin Vickers.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Chairman sends his apologies to you in the House. I know he will be pleased to have heard the Leader's comments about Tottenham Hotspur. In addition to the business already announced, the committee agreed at its meeting earlier this week that there would be another select committee report on Thursday, June the 5th, and that will be the Justice Select Committee. They also agreed debates in the Chamber on the 19th of June on incontinence and Windrush Day, and newly accepted debates for Westminster Hall for the 16th of June would be hydrogen-powered aviation, the role of carers, education in improving social mobility, and Down syndrome regression order. Could I also remind members that application forms for the main Estimates Day debates, which we anticipate in late June, are now available on the Backbench Business Committee website. And as regards general applications, we are swamped with applications, which is good news in one sense, but I would urge members to ensure that they get their applications in as quickly as possible, particularly if they're looking for a chamber debate, as we've got enough on the waiting list now to fill the chamber until November. Moving on, Madam Deputy Speaker, last week I was privileged to meet some teenagers from the Teenage Cancer Trust who were in Parliament following submitting a letter into the Department of Health and Social Care. They were remarkable young people who have clearly had an awful experience with cancer at an early age. So could I perhaps gently suggest to the Leader that she might like to allocate some government time for a debate on that subject? Thank you.
Well, can I first of all thank the Honourable Gentleman for stepping in for the Chair of the Backbench Business Committee, who I understand is still out celebrating in Bilbao and might eventually make his way back when he's finished celebrating, hopefully, and we'll look forward to seeing him after recess. And could I also pay tribute to the Honourable Gentleman for all his work that he does in business questions and elsewhere in raising the issues around British Steel and many of those issues in his own area of Scunthorpe. He raises a really important issue of teenage cancer, and I know that many of us have met those young people who are living with cancer and are getting treatment from cancer. I know the Secretary of State is particularly committed to these issues, and I'm sure he will be updating the House regularly.
Clive Efford.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. On Tuesday, those that are infected and affected by the contaminated blood scandal protested in Whitehall and handed in letters to number 10 Downing Street. They're angry that they've been excluded from overseeing the compensation process, and that the speed of the compensation process as a consequence of that is very slow. The government has promised a debate in government time on the contaminated blood scandal. Can I ask my right honourable friend, are we likely to get that debate this side of the summer recess?
Well, can I thank him once again for raising these important matters, which he does consistently and regularly. He knows that the government is committed to and will pay comprehensive compensation to the infected and affected in the infected blood scandal, and we are working at pace to ensure that compensation is paid out. We are also committed to a debate. We had a statement last week, I think, or the week before, a couple of weeks ago, to this House, and I will ensure that a debate, as promised, is forthcoming.
Oliver Dowden.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I've been working with residents of Meadowcroft Retirement Home in Bushey. They have suffered repeated failures by Anchor Homes, which has culminated this week in residents not being able to get an ambulance to that facility because of a faulty key box. Will the leader therefore find time for the House to debate the exploitation of vulnerable residents by companies like this?
Well, I'm really sorry to hear of this shocking incident from Anchor Homes. They have a responsibility to ensure, as he knows, that care can get in, that ambulances can get in, and this is really shocking to hear. And it's important that we do make sure that our care homes are operating to the highest standards, that they have the best people working there, and that all the residents can be safe and cared for. And I'm sure this would make a very popular topic for a debate.
Matt Weston.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Since the creation of the role of the National Security Advisor in 2010, every incumbent has come before the Joint Committee on National Security Strategy until this government. The Leader of the House will understand how accountability to this place is the cornerstone of our democracy. A failure for the NSA to meet with the committee would set a dangerous precedent for future governments to avoid parliamentary scrutiny. So will she use her position as a representative of this House in government to make sure that the NSA is held to account and appears before the committee?
Well, can I thank him for raising this with me directly and here today, and with the Leader of the House of Lords as well. And I will respond to him properly shortly as well. But we do take accountability very seriously indeed, and I will ensure that the committee is updated on the government's work to protect UK national security, and that relevant people are able to come before the committee to be scrutinised.
Before I call the next member, I am hoping to end this business statement around 2 o'clock. So can members please help each other out by keeping questions and answers short. Andrew Rossendale.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Following the outcome of the UK-EU summit earlier this week, will the Leader of the House grant a debate in government time about the state of British democracy? On the 23rd of June 2016, 70% of my constituents in Romford voted to leave the European Union, as did the rest of the United Kingdom. Yet this so-called EU reset is, in fact, a surrender of our hard-won Brexit freedoms. Rule-taking from Brussels once again, ECJ back in charge, British fish handed over to 2038, and billions of payments back to the European Union. Will the Leader of the House please let the British people's views be paramount and not the short-term views of this government?
Well, I think what people voted for in the referendum was to leave the European Union, but to retain many benefits of trade and cooperation, which his government failed to negotiate in the aftermath of that referendum, and this government has brought about. And he can't have it both ways, because one of the promises that his government made was that leaving the EU meant we could do lots of other free trade deals with other countries. That's what this government has delivered. A trade deal with India, unique and unprecedented, and a trade deal with the US as well. So we can't have surrendered ourselves to the EU if we're getting those trade deals at the same time as securing the benefits. And he will know that in actual fact what has happened since we've left the EU is that we've had to adopt all the standards and regulations from the EU in order to continue trading with them, but we've had absolutely no benefit from doing that. And now we've got those free trade benefits as well as doing that. So I'm sorry to say our deal is far better than the deal that his government got.
Neil Kyle.
On Saturday, my constituent Vimal Pandya received Freedom of Bermondsey at Southwark Cathedral for his exceptional work running the Royal Hyde Community Kitchen, feeding hundreds of people weekly. For his